That is how forever is made. They met when the world was quieter. Back when phones were heavy in the hand and even heavier in the pocket. When letters mattered because they took time, and waiting was just part of loving. Back when people listened, with their faces instead of their screens. And silence wasn't something to be filled but something to be shared. Asterisk. The town they lived in was small enough that the roads remembered your footsteps. A place where mornings smelled like bread from the corner bakery and oil from the mechanic's shop down the street. The kind of town where everyone knew everyone. But still somehow loneliness found ways to slip in. Asterisk. He was young then. Not rich. Not special. Not famous. Just a man with grease on his hands and hope in his eyes. Asterisk. He worked at a garage near the highway, fixing engines that had given up on people halfway to somewhere else. His days were loud metal clanking, radios humming, men shouting over one another, but his thoughts were always quiet. He dreamed of building something that didn't break so easily. A home, a life. A reason to come back every day. Asterisk. She worked at a small diner on the edge of town. Asterisk. The kind of diner with cracked vinyl booths and a bell that rang every time the door opened. The coffee was strong, the plates were chipped, and the windows rattled when trucks passed by. She wore the same pale blue uniform every morning, ironed just enough, and the same smile, too warm, patient, familiar. Asterisk. A smile that made strangers feel like they belonged. Asterisk. The first time he saw her, he forgot what he came in for. Asterisk. He stood there, just inside the door, pretending to read the menu taped to the wall, though he already knew it by heart. Eggs, toast, pancakes, coffee, all things he'd eaten 100 times before, but all he could really see was the way she laughed. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was soft, like something she tried to keep to herself but couldn't help letting out. It reached her eyes, settled there, and stayed. She noticed him too, the way he avoided eye contact, as if afraid of being seen too clearly. The way his hands were rough but careful when he passed her the money. The way he left a bigger tip than he could afford and walked out a little faster than necessary. I'm embarrassed by his own kindness. The next morning, he came back. Then the next. Then the next. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into a habit. He told himself he came for the coffee, for the routine, for something warm, before a long day at the garage. But they both knew the truth. He came for the feeling, the quiet moment where life slowed down enough to breathe. Asterisk. At first, they talked about nothing, the weather, the traffic outside. Asterisk. How bad the coffee tasted and how they drank it anyway. Asterisk. Then slowly, carefully, they talked about things that mattered. Dreams, fears, the future. He told her he wanted to build something real, not just fix what was broken, but create something that lasted. A home with solid walls. A life that didn't feel temporary. A family that stayed. She told him she wanted someone who wouldn't leave. Not when life was exciting, not when it was easy, but when it was heavy. Asterisk. They began walking together after her. Shifts ended, long roads, quiet streets. Asterisk. Streetlights flickering on one by one like they were keeping time. Asterisk. Sometimes their hands brushed, just barely, and both pretended not to notice. Hearts racing, breaths careful, afraid to move too fast and ruin something fragile. Asterisk. One night, the air colder than usual, he stopped walking. Asterisk. He turned toward her, suddenly serious, and said, Asterisk. I don't know how long it will take, but I promise you, I will love you honestly. She didn't answer right away. She just took his hand. Asterisk. And that was enough. They married young, with borrowed money, simple clothes, and more hope than sense. Asterisk. The wedding was small, family, a few friends, laughter that echoed louder than the room itself. No grand speeches, no expansive rings, just promises spoken softly and meant deeply. Asterisk. Their house was small, the walls were thin, the winters were cold, the roof leaked when it rained, money was tight, dreams felt far away. Arguments came easy. There were nights they went to bed angry, mornings they woke up tired. Moments they wondered if love was enough, but they stayed. Asterisk. When he lost his job, she worked longer hours. Asterisk. When she got sick, he learned how to cook, badly, at first, then better. Asterisk. When fear crept in, they faced it together. Even when they didn't know how, they learned that love wasn't the big moments. It was the small decisions. Asterisk. To stay, to listen, to forgive. Years passed, children arrived, then chaos, then laughter, then silence. The house that once felt too small, now felt too quiet. They grew older together, wrinkles forming like shared memories, hands aging but still reaching for one another in the dark. He forgot things sometimes, names, dates, where he left his keys, but he never forgot her. Asterisk. Every morning, he still looked at her the way he had the first time in that diner, like she was something the world had quietly given him when he wasn't looking. Asterisk. When she struggled to walk, he slowed his pace. When his voice weakened, she listened harder. Doctors came and went. Hospitals became familiar. Fear knocked often, But love answered every time. One night, she couldn't sleep. Asterisk pain sat heavy in her chest, pressing down like a memory that wouldn't let go. He held her hand, just like the beginning. She whispered, I am not afraid, because you are here. Asterisk years later, he sits alone now, in the same house. Her chair still faces the window. Asterisk, her sweater still hangs by the door. He talks to her. About the weather, about the memories, about the life they built. People asked him, how did you stay married so long? He smiles the same quiet smile and says, we never fell out of love at the same time. Because true love is not about perfection. It is about patience, presence, and choosing the same person every day, even when it hurts, even when it is hard, even when the world changes. That is how forever is made.